Hi guys, welcome to another video by LaunchPad Education. In this video, we are going to discuss the reasons of India's economic slowdown. In the previous video, we discussed the signs on the basis of which we are calling this phase in India's economy as a slowdown. In this video, we are going to discuss why is India's economy slowing down. So starting with the discussion, to understand the reasons of this slowdown that is going on in India's economy, the GDP growth rate that has come down to 5% and which is quite low, and it is reducing in every quarter, that is every 3 monthly period, it is reducing constantly. So to understand these reasons of slowdown, we need to go back to 8th of November 2016. On this day, Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi, he came on national television and he made a very important, a very historical announcement that the 500 and 1000 rupee currency notes, they will be useless. They are going to become just piece of paper and they are going to have no currency, no monetary value. So this step was very popularly known as demonetization. As a result of demonetization, more than 80% of currency that went out of India's economy in one announcement, in one strike. To be precise, it was 86% of India's currency notes. So imagine when 86% of currency, on the basis of which all the economic transactions were happening, that is no more usable, that has become useless. So the people who were engaged in economic transactions, the consumers who were consuming things, who were purchasing things, the manufacturers who were supplying the demand that was being generated by consumers, all these economic activities, these are going to either slow down or they are going to come to a halt. So as a result of demonetization, what happened was this led to a severe blow to consumption. As I told you, consumers, they are not going to have money to buy things that they need. So it led to a blow to consumption. As a result, manufacturing slowed down. Overall aggregate demand of India's economy that also came down as a result of demonetization. Now, lesser economic activity that led to lowering of wages. Imagine yourself as a manufacturer. The consumers to whom you were selling the products, they have stopped demanding things. So you will have to either slow down your manufacturing. When you slow down or shut your manufacturing, you will have to send certain workers that were working for you home, or you will have to reduce their wages. Right? So as a result of slowdown in consumption, manufacturing and demand, there was lesser economic activity. This lesser economic activity, it led to lowering of wages or it led to unemployment. Now, when there is unemployment or when the wages of the people who are working in the economy that is getting lower, that is getting reduced, what will happen is the further demand is going to go down. So this created a vicious cycle where the demand further reduced. As a result of demonetization, again, many businesses were shut. So imagine again yourself as a businessman and you have a lot of loans to pay. Your car loan, the loan that you have purchased to invest in the business. Now you don't have money and the economic activities, they have slowed down. But the bank is going to charge you the interest on the loans that you have taken. Right? So this cost of business that cannot come down. You have to pay your bills. You have to pay the electricity bill, water bill, house taxes, all these expenditures that are not going to come down. So as a result, many businesses, they had to shut down their shops. And many businesses, they could never recover from this impact of demonetization for a very long time. So this was the first reason. This is how the slowdown in India's economy it started, or we can say this was the biggest reason of economic slowdown that India is going through. Dr. Manmohan Singh, a very prominent economist first of all and former Prime Minister of India, so he said this in the parliament after demonetization was done that India's economy is come down. The GDP growth rate of India's economy that is going to go down by at least 2%, which we have seen turned out to be true. Now, this was happening in 2016 that demonetization had happened. In the very next year, another major structural reform was undertaken by Government of India. Now, this was goods and services tax, an indirect tax reform. This was a long pending reform. So this was done. This was a very bold move. And especially after demonetization, when the economy was already going through not the best of its times. So in 2017, a long pending indirect tax reform was undertaken. We know this as GST. So this was introduced. Whenever there is a major change that occurs in any economy, there is going to be a shock in the economy. Economy needs certain time to readjust or to adjust to the changes that have been made. So GST was a major step. It impacted every citizen in India. It impacted all the businesses of India. So businesses, they were going through an uncertainty. They were not sure whether the introduction of GST is going to be beneficial for them or it is going to harm them. Businesses, they needed time to understand the procedures, the mechanisms that were involved in GST, how to file taxes, how to file GST returns, right? So because of all these reasons, there was bound to be a further slowdown in India's economy. In the long term, GST is going to be a very good step. There are many changes that are needed. Industry is demanding a lot of changes even today from the government to be made in GST structure. But at that time in 2017, when we are talking about the reasons of slowdown, this change, it demanded some time for the economy to make adjustments and recover from uncertainties. There was delay of refunds. So the GST mechanism, the tax payment mechanism or the structure of GST, it is designed in a certain way that everyone, all the manufacturers or all the people who are producing goods or delivering services, they will pay GST to the government first of all. And there are certain refunds that they can claim. So these refunds, they take a little bit time to come back. When it was happening for the very first time, obviously for the government as well, it was a new thing. So to understand how things would work out, it took a lot of time for these refunds to be paid back to the manufacturers and the service providers. So as a result of this delay of refunds, it led to liquidity crunch. What is liquidity crunch? That means the market is not having money supply, enough money supply. So the availability of liquid cash, that was low as compared to what was needed to run their businesses. So as a result of liquidity crunch in the market, manufacturing and exports, they suffered. Next was the small businesses. They found compliance, that is the mechanism of filing returns and how to pay taxes, the regulatory framework, whatever was needed to be done. So the small businesses who are not in a position to incur a lot of cost, a lot of expenditure on running businesses, so their profit margins are not very high. So when compliance, it became very difficult. So for example, the GST return, it had to be filed at a very high frequency. So repeatedly every month you had to file certain returns. This has been changed by the government of India now, obviously because of this demand from the small businesses and the industry. But at that time, small businesses, they found this compliance very difficult and very costly. So all these things made doing business a little bit difficult. Next reason of slowdown, high burden of NPAs or non-performing assets. NPAs refer to the loans that are given by banks to the people, to the businessmen, to investors, any kind of loans that have been given by banks which are not coming back. So after a certain period, when the loans are not coming back, so people are not paying back loans as well as the interest amount to the banks. So after a certain period, banks have to categorize these loans as non-performing assets. So imagine the bank is having a lot of non-performing assets. The bank's money is not coming back, and the profit that they had planned to earn, that is also not coming back. So when the NPAs, they increase too much, what happens is banks are not in a position to pay more loans, to give more loans. So this leads to slowdown of credit or slowdown of lending capacity of the banks. So businesses who want to invest, people who want to buy cars or homes on the basis of car loans, home loans, they are not able to do these things because banks are not readily giving loans. So as a result, there is a slowdown in the economy. So NPAs, they started improving after March 2018. So Indian banking sector, it was going through its worst phase when we talk about NPAs till March 2018, when NPAs, they peaked. After that, NPAs, the problem of NPAs, it started improving. But there was another crisis that hit India's financial system. It was NBFC crisis. So when banks were suffering from NPA crisis, who was giving loans? These were the non-banking financial companies. But in 2018, there was a very big crisis in NBFC sector as well. So NBFC sector came under crisis. Now there was nobody left to give loans. So as a result, credit capacity of financial institutions it further reduced. Apart from these domestic issues, there were certain external issues, that is global issues as well. The global economy was slowing down. So there was a weak global trade as a result. Indian economy is a part of global economy. So when there is a global slowdown, Indian economy is also going to slow down. So as a result of weak global trade, India further suffered slowdown. Next reason was US and China tariff war. So tariff means taxes imposed on the imports that are coming from another country. So when the US and China are engaged in a tariff war, what they will do is US is going to impose a lot of tariffs or the taxes on the goods coming from China. And obviously China is going to reply back. China is going to retaliate. So China is going to impose tariffs or taxes on the goods coming from United States. So as a result, these both economies are going to suffer. Right? So Donald Trump has started this tariff war. He started imposing taxes on Chinese products because of certain acquisitions that he made. It is a whole separate discussion. For now, we need to understand that US and China tariff war. This pushed American and Chinese economy closer to the threats of recession. And all the economies, when there is a tariff war, all the economies who are doing trade with US or China, they are going to suffer to a certain extent. There are also certain opportunities that are for the countries who are not engaged in tariff war. But when US and Chinese economy is going to slow down, Indian economy is also going to have impact, or Indian economy is at least going to have uncertainty on what is going to happen as a result of this tariff war that is going on between US and China. So this added to the reasons of slowdown in Indian economy. Another crisis was going on between US and Iran. US was, a few weeks ago, people were speculating, people were thinking that US and Iran, they might go to war. So a lot of fuel comes from Middle East, the Arabian Peninsula, or the countries like Iraq, Kuwait, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Iran. So whenever there is a crisis, whenever there is a political crisis or there is a war in this region, the oil prices they go up. When the oil prices will go up, there will be inflation, there will be a lot of problems for Indian economy as well, because we are importing more than 80% of our oil from other countries. So as a result of Iran crisis, this became another reason of slowdown. Then Brexit, that is Britain is planning to exit from European Union. This was another cause of uncertainty for India's economy, because we are not sure what will be the impact of exit of Britain from European Union on the European economy, and as we are trading with Europe as well. So what will be the impact on India's economy? So these are certain more reasons from external economy for the slowdown of India's economy. More reasons coming back to our own India's fiscal policy, monetary policy. So tighter fiscal and monetary policy was another reason of slowdown. What is fiscal or monetary policy? These are the policies adopted by Government of India and RBI respectively to increase or reduce the money supply in India's economy. So how much money is there? How much funds are there in India's economy? That is regulated, that is controlled through fiscal and monetary policy by Government of India and RBI. So they can reduce taxes if they want to increase the money supply. What will happen when money supply is increased? When money supply is increased, the demand for the products it increases, because people will be having more money at a lower rate of interest, right? So demand will increase. When demand will increase, that will be good for the economy. But there is another side of this coin as well. When demand increases as compared to supply, the prices go up, and when the prices go up, we call it inflation. So when the demand increases, there is a danger of increasing inflation as well, and vice versa. So CPI inflation, that is the consumer inflation that we calculate. The CPI inflation, this was very high in 2013-14. It was 9.4%, which is very threatening for the economy. So as a result, to reduce this inflation, What will be done? The demand is to be reduced. So tighter fiscal and monetary policy was adopted by Government of India as well as RBI to reduce this inflation. Now this was good policy for that time for 2013-14 when the inflation was 9.4%. But the policy was kept harder. That is, the interest rates, the taxes, they were kept higher on a higher side. These were kept higher even when inflation was within comfortable levels. So when the inflation came down, what should have been done? These interest rates should have been reduced. But this was not done. So as a result, lesser money supply was available for investments. Because the policy was kept tighter, there was lesser money supply that was available for investments, for making investments into new projects, into the current projects. So this led to slowdown because people were not having enough money. They wanted to do businesses, but they were not getting money at a easy interest rates. High state and central fiscal deficit was another reason for slowdown. So what is fiscal deficit? It basically means that the government's incomes, they are lesser than the expenditure that governments are making. So state fiscal deficit, that is state governments, as well as the central government fiscal deficit, these both were very high. So when there is a slowdown, what government can do? What can government do? Government can start making investments, public investments, that is government money can be used to make investments in the economy. And that is how slowly the economy starts growing. When economy will start growing, even the private investors will be interested to make investments. But the problem was that there was higher state and central fiscal deficit. So even when the economy was slowing down, the state governments, the central governments, they were not having the option, they were not having the room to pump prime the economy. That means to make investments to increase the growth rate of the economy. So the two engines of economy, first one is consumption. We have discussed why consumption slowed down because of demonetization, and second engine of economy, that is investment, because money was not readily available in the economy to be invested. So both these engines, they slowed down. So these were the reasons of economic slowdown. These are the reasons why India's economy is growing at such a low growth rate, which is a very negative thing. We need to grow at least at 8 to 10% for 10, 15, 20 years to uplift millions of poor people in India, as well as to provide the jobs to the youngsters who are entering into the workforce. So this was the video. I hope this video helped you. If you liked this video, please like this video. For more such informative content, please subscribe to the channel and you will be receiving notifications if you press the bell icon. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please share this video with your friends.